All right. Happy Friday, everybody. Hope everybody's doing well. Excited to share with you some of our recent travels and things that we're doing. I'll tell you, first things first, want to welcome you to the Klear channel, Klear channel. You can find us on YouTube. Here shortly, you're going to find us in podcast version, which is pretty exciting. But this YouTube channel we created 3 years ago, and we brought on numerous entrepreneurs, successful people in their own industries, and professional athletes. And to be fair, next Friday, I think I've been able to confirm an incredible speaker to come join us. Nate Williams, his sister actually is the GM of the Las Vegas WNBA team that just won their second NBA title, WNBA title. And so met him just sitting, sitting on my plate to DR last week, and got along, talked for 2 or 3 hours about life and business and exciting things. And then there'll be some other entrepreneurs I'm lining up in the next few weeks. But today I want to talk about things that I learned in the Dominican Republic. First of all, on a subtle but not so subtle note, is don't drink the water. I have friends that brought the DR back with them, I think more than they probably wanted to, coming back from the DR. But what I really want to talk to you about is, I got a chance to meet Alan Stein. Again, I've covered this book a little bit recently on our YouTube channel. It's a great read. Alan Stein, Raise Your Game. Kind of neat. After I got a chance to spend about 2 hours with Alan, he signed our book, which is pretty cool. It says, Ken, I hope this helps you raise your game in all you do and continue to change the world one leader at a time, which is our mission here on the Klear channel and in the organization and the business that I build. But I want to talk to you a bit about some things that he shared with us, and that I think can make a difference in your life and make a difference in what you're doing, no matter what industry you're in and what you're looking to accomplish. So I'm going to jump in right away. So business in the game of life. In my opinion, you got to show up and you got to speak up. And when Alan talked, he talked a lot about that. And Alan Stein, this book has been used for many different professional athletes and coaches. He coached the likes of Kobe Bryant. Another organization that used this Raise Your Game is our Penn State Nittany Lions football team. Coach Franklin brought Alan in to talk to the football team a few years back and helped to build their culture at Penn State and their football team. Even if you're a hockey fan, the Colorado Avalanche, the coach at the Colorado Avalanche used this book, and actually, interesting enough, the coach of the Colorado Avalanche is my buddy Jamie's childhood best friend, which is crazy, and that's actually how we got connected with Alan. He came in to meet with us, which is pretty neat. But the Colorado Avalanche, Raise Your Game was the book that the coach passed on to all his coaches, even to his players, and collectively they got aligned to build their culture, which is pretty cool. But I want to talk to you guys about one of the most lethal combinations you can have in the workplace, and also in your organization, and it's confidence and humility. And it's interesting because I think about people that have succeeded in the game of life, and I've noticed this combination many times, and I've also noticed people that lack this combination. There's so many people that if they want to build their confidence, they do their best to get around confident people, get around great examples. But really, confidence, in my opinion, comes from knowledge and repetition, right? So if you know something really well, so I know the game of soccer pretty well. I played it for many years of my life. I know the game, I know the players, I watch a lot, I read a lot, etc. So that's a ton of knowledge. Now, I also know experience. Last night at soccer practice with my boys, some of the kids stayed after, and my son is starting to get a little bit of the bug to raise his game, and pun intended. And so he's taken a bunch of free kicks. And so he's the kid on his team that's taking the free kicks outside of the box. And we took maybe 30 or 40 free kicks for, 30 minutes after practice ended last night. And I just talked to him through, the experience I have with taking free kicks and how to line up a soccer ball and how to know the quadrants of the ball and how to spin the ball and how to bend it this way and bend it that way, how to get it to have spin like this, how to hit it dead on. And all that comes from repetition because I've hit hundreds and hundreds of free kicks, right? And so for him, all we were doing was repetition, repetition. And one of his buddies, Matthew, was there with him, which was really neat because he, wanted to learn also how to take free kicks. So if you want to get confident at anything, again, it comes from knowledge, learning all the ins and outs of whatever you're doing, and then the repetition, the day-to-day doing it over and over and over. Now, when humility comes into play, this is, in my opinion, that takes you from being average to being above average and essentially being great. And humility is the idea that that when you're in the picture frame, you can't see the picture, right? So you can't look at yourself outside of yourself without getting feedback. And this is probably the challenge that most great people have because they have so much confidence, they have so much ego that they don't get out of their own way. They don't actually get feedback. And they're sometimes so closed to feedback, it doesn't help them get to really the levels of success that they want. And humility means actually putting in your calendar on a weekly basis, having someone that you aspire to be like, having someone that's in a position you want to be in, having someone that's a mentor in life, and actually getting in front of them. And maybe they're busy and maybe they obviously have to do lots of things. So maybe it's not weekly, but maybe it's monthly. But actually thinking about how you can get feedback. And always remember with humility and feedback, it's not how they say things. It's more of the information. It's not how they're giving the information. It's more about looking at the information. And I'll tell you, there's an exercise that I did in a professional forum group that I'm in that have a bunch of entrepreneurs, and it's kind of hard to do, but you literally, this is an exercise, and I know actually as I'm thinking about some things we can do today in my office, but the exercise is you actually go up to someone and say, hey, a big challenge that I'm having today, and let's just say it's with sales, and we're in the sales industry. Let's say a big challenge I'm having today is I'm not closing enough sales. I want to do more sales. And so the question is, what feedback do you have for me about sales? And then the other person, their role is literally knowing what they know about you and knowing what they know about what you need to do. Their role is to give you high direction, like really direct. You need to do this, you need to do this, you need to do this. And that's one way to do it. Another way to do it is have people say, hey, listen, in my experience, I would do this, right? So it just depends on the person and their feedback. They'll give you high direction, they'll give you more supportive. And all you can do when you ask this question at the end, no matter how you feel, because some people sometimes will take off the gloves and be super direct and make you feel really uncomfortable and tell you things you don't want to hear, give you all your blind spots. But all you can do at the end of this exercise is you say, thank you. And then you walk away and you walk to someone else and you ask a similar question or a different question. Now, for anyone, again, that's extremely confident or has a really big ego, it's hard to just say thank you. Because what you'll want to do is you'll want to explain your point of view and explain where you stand and why you did certain things and why whatever. And that's why having the most lethal combination in business, humility and confidence, will help you, again, raise your game. So that's number one I wanted to share with you. Number two is really understanding how your purpose can create excellence in what you do. I just got it this morning. I got invited to be a part of a podcast here in Michigan, here in Detroit. It's called the Self Belief Podcast. So I wanted to throw it out there for any of our viewers. A buddy of mine, Keith, has been putting it together, and he's interviewing entrepreneurs and people here in the Detroit market that have made a difference. He said he just interviewed a U.S. judge that lives here in Michigan. someone who's really involved in the community and has made a major impact on the Detroit market and the city in general. And and it's interesting because as I get invited to these different experiences and I meet different people, it just reinforces that it's not what you do every day. It's not that if you're a mechanic, it's not if you're a teacher, it's not, if you're just a soccer coach or if you're in a, sales organization. It's not what you do every day that matters. It's in here. It's why you do it, and it's your purpose that makes the biggest difference. And so if you want to learn about purpose, now keep in mind there's a very big difference between function and purpose. And don't confuse function and purpose. So I think sometimes function is again what you do every day, what you do for a living, and it could be sales, it could be management, it could be HR, it could be whatever, it could be a mechanic. That's the function. That's the what you do. Again, who you are and why you do it is your purpose. And people who are really connected to their purpose, really connected on why they're doing. And listen, in my early 20s, the purpose was to get my first car. It was to get my own place and stop living at grandma's, apartment, retirement community or whatever it was that I lived at. So the purpose can be very basic. My purpose is to change the world one leader at a time. And keep in mind, that's chapter 20 of the book. And don't compare your chapter 1 to my chapter 20. I have a lot bigger dreams and goals and a lot of things. I don't have to worry about getting a car or getting an apartment, right? Like that's not in my world anymore. But at one point in my life, it was, right? So keep in mind your purpose of what you do is more valuable, and the more connected you are in that, the better you're going to do at whatever it is. And so, an exercise that you can do, a little formula that you can do if you want to learn more about your purpose and kind of create your purpose. And again, with a coach, maybe really iron it out, this is a formula. It's I help blank, and this is an X, just blank, do blank so they can blank, right? So I help young people in their career do sales and learn about leadership so they can accomplish their goals and grow their revenue and advance in their careers, right? So that's an example of how to think through your purpose. And again, if you've never kind of thought through this or kind of put this together or never had any intuition on doing this, it's really, really important to start thinking about it. Again, I put some notes here as I help people believe in themselves so they can grow into the leaders in their careers, families, and their community. That's something that I do. Now, put it all together in simple forms. My purpose is to change the world one leader at a time, right? So I kind of put it all together, and that statement, it really encompasses everything I do in my career and in my day to day. Now, knowing that purpose, it's also important to figure out who it is and what real leaders are in the world and who you want to be like. And so another exercise you can do if you want to build your understanding of effective leadership is you should literally make a list, sit in a group of peers at your workplace or in your office, and put down on paper. We did this exercise in our office here recently. Put down on paper, all the traits of great leaders. They have confidence. Again, they have humility. They are a student. They care about people. They have discipline. They have time management. And then just write down all these different things on what you feel is an effective leader and someone who, in your opinion, is someone that has it all together when it comes to leadership. And the second piece of this exercise is that's the first piece. Second piece is actually you now think about for you of all the things that effective leaders you think that they have, is you turn around and rate yourself. Give yourself an honest opinion about how you rank in your own list. And we did this exercise when I was at the trip in DR with my you know, I would assume he's my friend now. I don't know, Alan. But we did this exercise, and I'll tell you, as we went through things, that being I was really humbled, and I heard other people's opinion about real leaders and about effective leaders, and that's some things I just didn't think of, right? I didn't have the perspective of, and they gave me, their point of view. And I was, honest. And there's some things I felt like I was an 8 or 9 on. There's some things I thought I was a 5 or 6 on. And, and as I kind of came back, I started thinking about how I could get better at these things. And one of the things that I felt like I really need to improve on is to get even better and better at recognizing the behaviors that I value, the behaviors and the care, the selflessness that it takes to do well in the game of business. Because there's an old saying that the more people that want to see you do well, the faster you're going to do well. So there's people when I was traveling in my organization, in my office, that really stepped up a lot. And there's people that were asked, certain roles. And then there's people that stepped into certain roles that because other people dropped the ball or they weren't available to take on things. And so, it's one thing that I really thought to myself, like, man, I can really improve that as a leader and really recognize people. So I sent some messages and posted some things, essentially. Now, the question I would ask myself if you're interested in doing this exercise is, are you a player that others want to play with? Right? Is a question I would ask myself as you go through this list, these traits, these leadership skills. And I'll tell you, at some points in my career, I wasn't. I was too focused on me. I was too selfishly focused on my own, goals and whatever, and I wasn't really looking out for other people. Fortunately, I think I've based on the way I was raised, I always showed up to play and play hard, and I, did my best to always have a good attitude, things like that. But when it comes to leading and having influence, I wasn't the best young in my career. And another thing, again, if for you guys that are in leadership and maybe you're coaching people and you have people that report to you or people that look up to you, the question I would encourage you to ask yourself is, are you the coach that others want to show up and be coached by? Right? So are you the coach that others want to play for, essentially? And how do you become that coach that others want to play for? Is you have all these traits and you actually work on these things. You actually improve these things. You're not Listen, you're not going to be perfect. I'm not perfect today. I wasn't back then. I won't be in 10, 20 years. But the point is if there are things that you're not good at, are you actively trying to get better at? Or are you the person again that's just like, nah, whatever. Yeah, I'm more interested in being a young adult and doing other things as opposed to my career. Well, people that are career focused, they're not going to want to hang out with people that aren't career focused, right? So just encourage you, and I remember this when it comes to these simple exercises. If you are interested in getting better, I would look at one of those traits, just one, and I would put it in your planner. I would put it on your notepad. I would put it in your phone, put it somewhere where every single day you focus on it for 30 days. Just one thing. And after 30 days, again, the hard thing to do is doing it daily. It's not what you do in a day, it's what you do daily that really matters in growing in your career. And if there's one thing, and maybe it's a skill like public speaking, maybe it's something about being prepared and having intention and notes going into meetings, whatever. Pick one thing and get better at it and do that the rest of the year. And that's 12 things you're going to improve on. Life and success is about progress. It's not about being perfect. But I will tell you, I've learned from my experience that complexity undermines execution. So the more complex something is, the more it is for a lot of moving parts to do something, it actually gets in the way of executing at a high level, right? That's why I have very basic systems in my company where I can really teach almost anybody, and I don't mold, I don't change them. They're super simple because it helps people execute when they're new at it. And then when they get empowered and they learn those things, they gain confidence. All right, and then last thing I want to share with you guys, when it comes to life and purpose and things you're doing, is I would think about the 3 most important things you do in your day. Most important things you do in your day. Not talking about your career, just most important things you do in your day. And I would think about these responsibilities, these priorities, these things we do in a day. And it could be, if you focus purely on your career, it could be three things that you do in your career. But at a high level, I would figure out, what are those three things? What are the main three things in my day that I do in the course of my week that will move me towards my goals of my next promotion, of my, next accomplishment outside of work? What are these three things? And then ask myself on a daily basis, am I sticking to my three priorities, and are they moving me towards what I want? What happens is, and what I learned, and what Alan talked a lot about, was awareness is always the first step to accomplishing anything you want. Awareness, learning about, hey, like, this is something I really, really want, and these are things I need to do. It's not things I want to do, things I need to do to accomplish my next goal. And if you're not going to change anything you're not aware of, right? You're not going to change, you're not going to improve anything that you don't focus on. So bringing the awareness to it and thinking about the three priorities will get you zoned in. And one thing that Alan talked a lot about is, he worked with a lot of sports teams, but there's so many times that there's misalignment with what people are doing in business. So if I think someone who reports to me is doing three specific things on a high level for their role, and then I have them do this exercise, and the three things that they're doing are not the three things that I think they're doing, well, the misalignment will cause friction among the organization, and it will cause energy and frustration and things that are just not going as planned. Everyone's not rowing in the right direction, right? So it's very similar to a sports analogy. If the wide receiver is supposed to do three things on a certain play, block a person and then run down the field, whatever, then, and they don't do those things, then something else is going to happen, and they could cause a mistake, get a turnover, etc. Right? And when it comes to sports, there's Bill Belichick used to say from the New England Patriots, simple saying. And the reason he was able to take the New England Patriots for many, many years to build the somewhat of a dynasty they had with Tom Brady and some of the players. And keep in mind, most of those players, if you know sports, were not top draft. They weren't the best of the best. They were not top draft picks in the NFL draft. A lot of times they were kind of the B player that they got to come together and buy into the culture and do really, really well. And then they, as a team, succeeded in the years they won the Super Bowl. But his whole motto was, do your job. Just do your job. Every player in the field has a job. Do your job with excellence, and collectively we're going to win the game. And he actually even would say that so much that they, as they looked into kind of going into games against, the Buffalo Bills or the Washington, Commanders are called nowadays. I'm a Redskins fan, but Commanders or the Dallas Cowboys or whatever, the Miami Dolphins, he would talk so much about doing our job that he knew if we couldn't do our job, it doesn't matter what the other team is doing. Right? It does not matter what, in the business of sales, it doesn't matter what a customer will objection or whatever in sales will give you if you don't do your job. And as a professional sales rep, having a positive attitude, having great energy, having an outgoing personality, these are things that are involved in the job that you can obviously learn to do if you need to improve them. But you got to do your job first and foremost with excellence, to then even show up to compete with whatever the competitor you're working against. And in the NFL, it's the other team, right? So having awareness around things is the first step. And then the second step is thinking through those priorities, right? Awareness around what your goals are, thinking through the priorities, and then actually sitting in front of mentors. And again, having that humility and having that confidence to sit in front of a mentor and sit in front of them that's someone that you respect, and figuring it out if you have alignment. And I think when you do these things, it will really help you learn more about your purpose, learn more about your function, learn more about what you do day to day, and really ultimately move you towards your goals. But I'll share this story with you. Alan shared with us, and again, I'm just passing on information that I've learned in my career and people and incredible people that I meet when I hop on the channel. A lot of this stuff isn't things I've created myself. I'm not that good, just to be fair. But I feel like this can be a community in an area that people can use and can go to, especially if they're within the organization or maybe an outside the organization. But I'll share this story. Alan shared with us the time that he got a chance to meet Kobe Bryant, and obviously for the basketball fans in the world, I've always learned a lot from watching all the videos and all the interviews he's had and reading about his life and the decisions he made. But Alan told us a story about when he met Kobe and he was at a basketball camp, and he was there just kind of as a young guy working with athletes and trying to learn as much as he could. And he says to Kobe, just off, out of not knowing what he would say, he said, "Hey Kobe, I'd love to come watch you train. I know you're here for the camp, for the kids, etc. I'd love to just watch you watch you practice someday, just to kind of see what I can learn about you. And this is the greatest basketball player on the planet at the time, and obviously, in my opinion, still is. And the the thing he says to Kobe, he said, "Kobe, can I come watch you play?" And Kobe said, "Sure, no problem. Meet me at 4 o'clock tomorrow." And he's like, "Hey, well, Kobe, I'm we have meetings tomorrow at 4 o'clock." And he goes, "No, no, you think 4 p.m. I was saying 4 a.m." And of course, Alan Stein Jr., he's like, "Oh, okay, cool. Yeah." And then Kobe Bryant, like, for sure. And so he said he woke up, set his alarm for 3 a.m. He jumped in an Uber and in a random city in the country, and goes to a local high school basketball gym that was opened up for the greatest basketball player of all time. His plan was to get there at 3:30 a.m. just to be there to kind of see him walk in and do his thing. And he said he never will forget getting out of the Uber and hearing the squeaky shoes on the floor, the bouncing of the basketball in the gym. And he's like, no way is he already here. And he walks in. He said he snuck into the side of the gym, walked up in the bleachers, and he watched Kobe Bryant for about 30 to 40 minutes. And he said, just so you know, he was in a full sweat at this point at 3:20, 3:30 in the morning. But he watched Kobe Bryant go through the most basic things that a basketball player would do on the court. And he said he sat back and he watched Kobe Bryant, and he's like, "Man, how is it that the best athlete on the planet at what they do is doing these drills?" And he saw him doing things that he would teach his kids, things that he would cover with his his young kids. And he said that's when he realized that the best of the best on the planet are always centered on the fundamentals. They're always centered on the basics. And if the basics were easy, everyone would do them. So even the most elite at what they do still focus on the basics before they get into the game. And I actually, I remember this being a college athlete myself. I remember my coach used to make us do little volleys back to each other, little headers back to each other as a part of our everyday practice, literally 15 minutes. Again, I thought it was the dumbest thing going through it. And knowing what I know now, reading about people like Kobe, reading about others that are incredibly successful in what they do, I've had aha moments about those moments in my past. And I encourage you, with whatever you do, never, never, never get bored with the basics, because the basics work. The basics work. And if you're in a role where you need clarity on what those basics are, I would get in front of some of your leadership. I would get in front of some of your mentors and figure out what those basics are. I know here in our office, we're going to do a little activity around the basics. But when I get a chance to speak in front of our whole group, but I just encourage you guys to remember that if you're going to grow in your purpose, you're going to grow in your values, you're going to accomplish everything you ever dreamed of. And I'm a firm believer that you're here on this planet to do just that, is to live life to its fullest and accomplish what your dreams are. I encourage you to remember that the basics are the basics, and make sure you master those. So have an amazing Friday, everybody. Thanks for jumping on. For those of you all in the audience today that are watching live the recording, if you miss it, obviously jump on YouTube, KLEAR channel. If you're in the office and you haven't subscribed, your trainer is going to walk over to you here in 30 seconds or so and make you subscribe, because it's part of being on our team, and get all the goodness that we have on the Klear channel. So thanks for jumping on. Find us on YouTube, find us on Instagram, all those other social media sites, and soon to be in podcast form. So have an amazing Friday. Thanks for jumping on.